Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast, NFL, every game on the board, Friday morning. Teddy Covers is in. Happy Friday, Teddy. Welcome in, man. How you doing?
I'm lousy, dude. I had the Bears last night, and I got the handicap half right. The Bears' defense was the most dominant unit on the field. Unfortunately, the Bears' offense was the weakest of the units on the field. You tell me before the game Green Bay scores 10, we we're like lining up, how much can I bet on Chicago? But unfortunately, it wasn't much to cheer about for Bears. It was kind of like the Super Bowl. I had the Rams in the Super Bowl. Last two NFL games I had, my team scored a field goal and a field goal. So, I want better results this weekend. I expect better results this weekend. I'm sick of my teams not scoring.
Well, Teddy, it's all right, man. One bad loss, and you've been good, man, over the last 4 years, last year, and coming into this year. So I'll take my chances with you coming up. And we're starting off at the top of the card, Teddy. 4-5-3, 4-5-4. Atlanta at Minnesota. 47 the total. We got the Minnesota Vikings, -4 at home. Starting off here, this is the Every Game on the Board podcast. We'll be talking all the games on Sunday, on Monday. Teddy, start us off with Atlanta and Minnesota.
Well, I appreciate your confidence in me. And look, obviously the long-term NFL track record is very good. Last year's season was very good. The preseason was good. All that's rearview mirror, dude. None of that matters now. If I'll come out this weekend and lose, and, it's not about what I did. It's about what are we going to do moving forward. So my focus is not on, past accomplishments. It's how to not have another loser like the Bears. Oh, it's so frustrating when the team just, the defense does everything you expect them to do. They shut down Green Bay, and then the offense just can't do a damn thing. Zimmer, 3-0 straight up and against the spread against Atlanta. He's owned Quinn. Last two times they faced the Falcons with Quinn as head coach, Minnesota's defense has held Atlanta to 10 and 9 points in those ball games. Significant injury concerns for both teams. Julio Jones still very much a question mark for Atlanta, though it does look like their starting quarterback Ricardo Allen's going to go. For Minnesota, Steph Diggs is still listed as questionable for this weekend. So if you don't have Jones and or you don't have Diggs, those are huge losses for the team that may or may not have their starter. Their star receivers. And without knowing the status of those players, boy, it's hard for me to make a strong opinion on this game. I do believe in Minnesota. I will say that. I thought Cousins had a good preseason, the one preseason game where he got ripped and the offense didn't work. He took that to heart. It's a quarterback, a veteran quarterback coming off a modestly disappointing season and a pretty good head coach against the spread ever since he's been in the league. That being said, you power rate these guys out, and the line is right where it should be. Atlanta is a squad that I, too, am fairly bullish on going into 2019. So it might be a bet on versus bet on in this one. Of course, total-wise, you're always thinking Zimmer under. And I think Quinn has shown plenty of under tendencies, particularly when Jones isn't available. But we don't know with Jones or Diggs. Let's see if we get a little closer to kickoff and find out the info on the two-star wide receivers.
Teddy, we got 4-5-5, 4-5-6 up next. After a good first breakdown there, we got an NFC East showdown. Washington at Philadelphia. Largest spread on the Sunday board. We got Philadelphia, the Eagles, laying 10 at home, 44.5 the total.
Yeah, and of course, the trend bettors will all be on Washington this ballgame. You look at the divisional underdogs in week 1, 17-4 against the number. With a push the last 22 tries. I think that dates to 2014 or 2013. But the recent trend has been very strongly towards divisional dogs early in the season. And then we talk about the big favorites week 1. They, too, have a negative long-term track record, at least over the last 5 years. Favorites of even 6 or more have been in the, I think, 36% ATS. So the theme in recent week 1s has been division dogs and double-digit underdogs. All that being said, Jay Gruden has been god-awful. His team's never been ready on opening. They have one win on opening day in 5 years. The 4 losses came by an average of, 2 touchdowns a game. They've been bad off a bye, too. The more time they have with Gruden, the worse that they've been. It's a Redskins team that obviously has offensive line issues. They have the quarterback issues are very real. Case Keenum may well be, you want to rank the NFL starting quarterbacks. He's not going higher than 30th. And you can make a case he's below that. That includes the rookies. And, of course, he's playing without a suspect offensive line. There's hope for Washington. The front seven on defense looks pretty good. The secondary might be okay. That defense might be solid. But and, of course, we saw last night, again, the teams that didn't play their starters in the preseason, both Chicago and Green Bay, had very limited actually starters, and both teams couldn't move the football. Philadelphia didn't play their starters very much in the preseason. That could be a factor here. But on paper, the Eagles look a whole lot better than the Redskins. And I use Philly as a free play. I put some Philly in my pocket when the line was a little bit better than this. If you can read the full analysis right now, just check on the free plays link at sportsmemo.com.
Teddy, good stuff. We got Buffalo at the New York Jets up next, 40.5 the total. And Teddy, another division dog at play in the Bills, and we're seeing the New York Jets minus 2.5 at home.
Yeah, and the money has come for Buffalo. Boy, if you watch the Bills' defense play in the preseason, they looked really good. This was a pretty darn good pretty good defense last year, considering all the offensive struggles that they had. They finished number 7 in overall defense a year ago, compared to the Jets that finished 26th in that category. So, what do the markets like to see? They like, division underdog, good defense, and boom. Hence the Buffalo money. All that being said, there's a lot to like about the Jets. And it starts with the head coach, Adam Gase, who hasn't necessarily gotten as much love as some might think from the New York media. He went, I forget if it was 23 or 25 or 25 and 23 with Miami over a 3-year span. They were money winners, and they were bad. All right, NFL's best record in one-score games Adam Gase had in recent seasons with the Dolphins. They dominated those games last year. That's how they cashed my season win bet over, even though it was a god-awful wager. So Gase has a history of winning these close games. And right now, you tell me which of these two quarterbacks do I trust, Sam Arnold or Josh Allen? Sam Arnold had the highest QBR in the NFL in the month of December. Did you know that?
I did not.
I didn't even know that. I'm like, geez. I was reading that. I'm like, that's – we saw a lot of signs from him as a rookie, and now they've got weapons, big-time weapons around him, and not just Le'Veon Bell. Robbie Anderson's healthy at receiver. I mean, they've got people for Darnold to get the ball to. I don't know that Buffalo has that. So if I had to play the game, I would look at the Jets. Minus 2.5 to me seems a little bit cheap. Total 40.5. That's been bet up pretty heavy. And I wouldn't be surprised to see both teams take their shots. And both teams emphasize the passing game a fair bit, which means I wouldn't argue with that money coming on the over in this one, despite some concerns about both squads offensively.
Teddy, you bring up the Miami Dolphins season win total. They're the next game up. And guys, remember, Teddy still has his NFL over-under season win total report up at sportsmemo.com exclusively. At sportsmemo.com. You can get it on the website right now. Only a couple days left to get in these bets, and it's still up there live action, and you can use the analysis in your betting going forward throughout the season. Great analysis in there. I bet it personally. It's good stuff, and it's included in the NFL full season package. Also, the NFL and college football combo full season package, all available at sportsmemo.com. And we have the podcast coupon code here, TC149 at checkout. Will give you Teddy Covers 30-day all-access package for just $149. That's more than half off the retail price at sportsmemo.com using the coupon code TC149 at checkout. Talking about the Miami Dolphins here, Teddy, the lowest season win total on the board in the whole NFL. They're hosting the Baltimore Ravens here. 40 the total, 6.5. That's the Ravens laying in South Florida.
Yeah, people still remember the 47-3 last year. That was the Week 1 Baltimore score when they played a Buffalo team that didn't have a quarterback, had issues coming into the season, and obviously it wasn't pretty for the Bills in that game. Baltimore with a history of strong starts in the Harbaugh era. Of course, a new coordinator in Greg Roman for the Ravens. Of course, this is a guy who has had success with the dual threats QBs. He was the guy who made Colin Kaepernick a star. He was the guy who made Tyrod Taylor into a serviceable NFL quarterback. So Roman has had success in the past with QBs like Lamar Jackson. That being said, I've been reading some interesting stuff about Miami this week and what Brian Flores wants to do defensively. And basically, schematically, he's looking to do some stuff, the former Patriots assistant, looking to do some stuff that we haven't seen on film. And we could see some different looks for Miami defensively in an effort to confuse the young quarterback Lamar Jackson. And, of course, if you're asking from a week one standpoint, where the Dolphins better off? They're better off with Rosen or Fitzpatrick behind QB. They're better off with Fitz for week one. They're better off with Fitz on a week-by-week basis if they're playing for this year. But, the trade of Tunsil was clearly we're building for the future trade. And, again, about, a week or two ago, I was reading in Miami when the rumors of the Tunsil trade were going on. The quote was, there will be a revolt in this locker room if he gets traded. Well, he got traded, and the markets reacted immediately with 6.5s across the board, although it's worth noting that it hasn't hit 7, at least not yet.
Yeah, it's a big number there, 6.5 and 7. It's pretty much 6.5 all the way across the board as we're talking right now. We got next game up, San Francisco at Tampa Bay. Teddy, 51 the total. Seeing anywhere from 1.5. That seems to be the prevailing number here with the Bucs laying at home. Yeah,
and I mean, Jimmy G coming back from his torn ACL, had a dicey preseason. That being said, in Frisco with Jimmy G behind QB, Niners are 6-2, straight up and against the spread. When he's been healthy, of course, he hasn't been there very much. At the end of 2017 and last year, just a couple of games before he got hurt. So there's a lot of hope for San Fran and Jimmy G. There's certainly the potential for San Fran and Jimmy G. But at the same time, it is a 49ers roster that, they lack a lot of depth in different places. A lot more skill position talent than they had a year ago. And I do think that San Fran will be putting points up right from the get-go. Certainly Tampa's defense is not a scary unit on paper or in practice. A unit that got decimated last season and doesn't look a whole lot better this year. But, of course, we know what Bruce Arians can do offensively. And Jameis Winston, you talk about QBs with something to prove this year. Mariota and Winston are number 1 and 1A on that list in the NFL. Certainly with the guru-like Arians, the market's expecting better results from a Bucs team that, again, from an offensive standpoint, there's a lot of potential there to put up points in bunches. I lean over in this one. One of the highest totals on the board has already been bet up, 49 at the open. Now we're looking at 50.5s and 51s, and that's the way. That'd be my preferred look in this one. I do lean San Fran, but I'm not going to get to the window with the 49ers. Certainly not less than a field goal, and I don't think we're going to see that number.
And guys, we're talking with Teddy Covers at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. We have Teddy on for NFL, every game on the board, sometimes college football, every game on the board, and always for the NFL opening line report. You can catch at sportsmemo.com or on the YouTube channel each and every Monday, talking the opening lines in the NFL. That is a mainstay during football season. And Teddy, one interesting note here, we touched on it on the opening line report, but do want to get a little bit more information on what you're thinking here in terms of handicapping this, because interesting also, in the rotation number, we got all 3 Florida teams, one right behind each other, and of course, all 3 of the Florida teams playing at home here this weekend. And with the Hurricane Doreen, seems to be out of affecting the gameplay of all of these games. I believe it did affect some of the practices. Not sure if you read into that too much and putting that too much into your handicapping. But either way, wanted to ask you about that and also get your analysis here on KC at Jacksonville. Looks like the Jags catching 3 at home and 51.5 the total, Teddy.
The impression I've gotten of the 3 teams, the Jags were most affected, where the storm was making a beeline for, at no point this week has Miami looked to be threatened. At no point has the storm been heading towards Tampa, but Jacksonville was in the crosshairs for quite a bit. And I do believe that the Jags had at least one practice that was called off because of the potential hurricane. Now, most of the effects ended up going further north into Georgia and North Carolina and South Carolina. But even the games there, most of the games, you say the Falcons going to be affected. No. Atlanta's 100 miles plus inland. Same thing with Charlotte in the Carolinas. So I would say of all the teams, the Jags most affected. I don't know that it is a significant. It wasn't like everyone had to evacuate and some kind of a crazy situation like that where life really gets in the way of football. Haven't gotten that sense from the Jaguars. They look to me, at least from what I've read, to be focused on the task at hand. Of course, the task at hand isn't easy for Jacksonville going against Patrick Mahomes. And I'm seeing all this where expect regression from Mahomes. His numbers last year were unsustainable. Maybe they were. But you don't usually see it. It happens sometimes. There's, Rick Myrer always stands out, won the Rookie of the Year and never did anything else. So it can and does happen where a quarterback has a moment as in his first year as a starter, and then that's all that he gets. But I'm not convinced that Patrick Mahomes is going to regress. And this is a Kansas City offense that scored 25 or more every single game last season. Of course, 7 games at home last year, the most the Jags allowed was 20. So it's the matchup against the hot offense against what could be the hot defense. Andy Reid's really good in week 1, 5-1 straight up. And that includes 4-0 straight up against the spread on the road in his openers. He was good in week 1 in Philadelphia. So it's a head coach who I trust to have his team ready out of the gate, which is important in a matchup like this. And obviously, we have Nick Foles and John DeFilippo reuniting, a duo that won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia. Jacksonville to me is something of a mystery. There's a lot of thought out there that the Jags are going to, this was an 11, what they went 12 wins, 11 wins, I forget, 2 years ago before everything fell apart last year. But before the one outlier season, they were garbage too. And I don't necessarily look at this defense and go, yeah, this is the elite stop unit or one of the elite stop units in the NFL. And I don't look at this offense and say, yeah, the Jags are primed to be putting up 30 points a game this year. Jacksonville might be a bad team being priced as a mediocre team. And if they are, Kansas City might slap them around.
Good breakdown, Teddy. We got a couple games left here. We got Tennessee at Cleveland up next. 45.5 the total. Looks like the Browns catching 5.5. A lot of people liking the Browns this offseason, Teddy. Did you fall in that group?
No. A lot of people not liking the Browns.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
So the public is in love with Cleveland. And the wise guys are like, no, we don't belong. Maybe not. Baker Mayfield, yeah, we don't trust him yet. Freddie Kitchens, yeah, we don't trust him yet. When you grade out the Cleveland Browns, they have as much talent as any team in the NFL. But they're not lined at 10 wins or 10.5 wins, even 9.5 wins. They're lined at 9 wins because the wise guys don't believe in them, period. Sometimes the public is smarter than the wise guys, legitimately, because they're watching the games, and the wise guys are looking at stats. And if you watch Cleveland, man, that defense, every preseason game, that defense blew up the opposing line of scrimmage. Every one of them. And when you look at their offense, it hit or miss. Lots of offense, a little bit out of sync in the preseason. But it's not like with the weapons that they have that Cleveland is unlikely to be able to move the football. Tennessee's had some issues on the offensive line this week. Multiple guys missing practice time. Everyone should be good to go this weekend. The Titans are a potential money maker. They're an under the radar team with a quarterback in a make or break season and a coach in a make or break season. And there's a lot, in the trenches. Tennessee looks pretty good. There's a decent amount of skill position talent. They have a solid looking defense. There are things to like about Tennessee. They might be real moneymakers for us, especially, an under-the-radar squad that isn't getting a whole lot of buzz like Cleveland is. But I'm telling you right now, I am absolutely a Browns believer, and they are not a team I'm looking to stand in front of. So it's a game that I'm not going to play because I can understand the rationale for Tennessee, and I do think that Tennessee might be an undervalued commodity. But part of me feels like if I'm betting the Browns every week in September, I'm going to make money. I'm kind of hoping they don't look good in this game because I think we might get some real value on Cleveland if they don't bring their A game for opening day.
Yeah, Teddy, I like the Titans. I think plus the points kind of fading that sentiment on Cleveland. I don't know. I just felt like a lot of the mainstream was liking the Browns in the offseason, not necessarily the wise guys, but we do have.
No, I don't like them. There's no question that the sharp money is not. The wise guys like Cleveland when they went 0-16 and 1-15. That's when they were losing money on Cleveland every week. And now that Cleveland's good, the wise guys are like, oh no, they're not that good. As a group, professional bettors have not done well with the Cleveland Browns over the last 5 years, and I wouldn't be surprised if 2019 is the rule, not the exception.
Good stuff, Teddy. And guys, we got one game left here on this segment. We'll bring Brent Crow in to finish off the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast, posted every Friday throughout football season right here at sportsmemo.com. And the coupon code for this segment is TC149. That's TC149. No spaces at checkout for more than half off his 30-day all-access package at sportsmemo.com. That will give you every play and every sport Teddy covers releases for the next 30 days, get you all the way through the month of September. That coupon code is TC149 at checkout. Teddy, last game up for this segment, LA Rams at the Carolina Panthers. 50 the total, 1.5 the prevailing number. That's the Rams laying on the road.
So this is your trend nightmare game. All right. Which trend out of these do you want to follow? All right.
Shoot.
Super Bowl loser, 3-16 against the spread in Week 1 since 2000.
No, I don't want to follow that.
That's a strong sample. It's a solid sample size. And
yeah, but where's the fundamental backing behind that? I don't see it.
Are you kidding? The fundamental backing behind that is that the Super Bowl loser knows how hard it is to get back to the Super Bowl, and they know that it's a long season. They don't come out in Week 1 with necessarily their A game. 3-16 ATS, and this was a trend before that as well. When I first came to Vegas, they were always talking Super Bowl loser, bet against Super Bowl loser. I honestly think this trend goes back further than just 2000. I just have that in front of me, 3-16 ATS. So it is a trend that makes sense to me. Okay. It definitely makes sense to me. Okay. I don't think it's just randomness. How about this one? All right, so that's anti-Rams. Wade Phillips, Week 1. His defense, if you can go back to his time at Dallas, all right, when he was that Cowboys head coach, 10-1 straight up, 9-2 against the spread Week 1. His opponents, both the Rams and the Cowboys, held to 16 points a game during that span.
I like that.
Is that a trend?
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
All right. So we have Rams yes and Rams no, very clearly, with those two trends. Worth noting, okay, in a preseason where all of a sudden what Sean McVay was doing is now what everybody's doing. Sean McVay didn't play the Rams starters at all last preseason, or barely at all. He didn't show anything. Everything was super vanilla. And they came in the season and scored 33, 34, 35, 38, and 33 the first 5 weeks. And that included games against some good defense, the Chargers, Vikings, and Seahawks during that span. So they came out of the gate clicking, despite that they didn't do anything, which was the exception to the rule. Also worth noting, 2 years under Sean McVay, Rams the single best league road record in the league, 14-3 straight up. So a lot of cases you can make for LA on the trend and angles and are they ready type of scenario. That being said, Carolina, Cam Newton got hurt last year. Before he got hurt, they had won 10 in a row at home, 8-2 ATS during that span. The strong home field in Carolina. And lots of, I guess, the money that we've seen for the Panthers over the course of the week, it's been trickling in. It feels a little bit like knee-jerk, like Cam Newton's going to play, Cam Newton's going to play, Cam Newton's going to play. We knew Cam Newton was going to play, and the money's coming in anyway. So I thought the more appropriate line was L.A. +3, but at LA, or -3, I say, but LA -3, I was leaning towards Carolina. So no action for me at this price.
No, those are good trends, Teddy. I like the back two, and you're right on that Super Bowl loser. That does make sense. Actually, there is some fundamental backing there, so it's all good trends. But the thing I would ask though is Cam Newton hurt though? Like, is he going to try to play and he's actually banged up? Because if he's banged up, he's not the same Cam Newton, man.
Yeah, I mean, so the reports are he looks fine in practice. And that's what the markets are reacting to. Whether he ends up re-injuring the play on the foot on the first play of the game, or whatever. But right now in practice, Newton appears to be fully recovered from his preseason injury from week 3.
All right, good stuff. As always, from Teddy Covers, we got the coupon code TC149 at checkout. More than half off of his 30-day all-access cover you all the way through the month of September. All the plays, all the analysis that Teddy releases in every sport for more than half off at sportsmemo.com. That's his 30-day all-access using the coupon code TC149 at checkout. Teddy, we got Brent Crow coming in to finish off the podcast for the week here, the back half of the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast. But anything you want to throw out to the listeners before they get back at you on Monday?
Well, it's definitely worth noting. Week 1 of the NFL, people can get a little bit overexcited. In terms of unit size, this is not a week that you want to empty your bankroll. Bet with your head, not over it, blah, blah, blah. You've heard it before. I'll say it again, but it's the truth. It's a marathon, not a sprint, this football season. Best of luck all weekend. I wish you guys nothing but winners. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend with me and Drew, and enjoy the rest of the analysis with Brent Crow coming up next.
Absolutely, Teddy. Great stuff. He's on all sports run last 9 days, hitting 70%, 58% in the NFL since 2015. That's the last 4 years. 58% in last year, 62% in the NFL. And guys, don't forget about his NFL season win total report since 2001, hitting 71%. That's 87 and 35 off of a 5-0 campaign last year. So check that out. Just a couple days left to get down your NFL season win total report bets. Check it out at sportsmemo.com. Guys, we'll be right back with Brent Crow. Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast, the NFL Every Game on the Board. Next handicapper up, we got Brent Crow, mainstay at sportsmemo.com. Brent, welcome into the pod. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. We got week 1 NFL, week 2 college football. Good time to be a sports bettor. We're starting off this segment 4-6-9, 470 Detroit at Arizona. We got the Lions, minus 2.5 favorites on the road. 46 the total in the desert. What are you thinking here?
Well, you've got the air raid offense making its NFL debut. Supposedly in preseason, Cliff Kingsbury didn't really show a whole lot, so it's going to be interesting to see, what this offense entails. I mean, we've seen it in college. We've seen some, Steve Spurrier a long time ago, but the fun and gun. I mean, there's been some Chip Kelly with the Eagles. There's been some wide open offenses, but supposedly this one's a little bit different. It's going to be interesting. I think Kyler Murray is probably the right quarterback to run it. I mean, but who knows what's really going to happen? I mean, it wouldn't be surprising if they didn't score some points in this game, and then, once there's some tape, it's going to get a lot more difficult for Arizona. And it's not like they have a lot of all-pros either. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald's been around forever. He's still, decent player. Christian Kirk at receiver, and obviously David Johnson, running back, is one of the top 4 or 5 in the league. But offensive line, kind of iffy. The defense for Arizona, especially early in the season with Peterson suspended, it's going to be a problem. So, I look at this game, and I'm going to give Kingsbury and the offense the benefit of the doubt and say they're going to score some points, but I think Detroit will as well. I mean, Matthew Stafford has got some weapons around him, and 46.5 is the total. I would look to play it over the total. I just don't think Arizona's going to stop many people, and they're definitely going to play fast, so you're going to have some more possessions in the game. And 46.5 is actually not that high of a total for an NFL game. I mean, look at some of the other ones this week. You got a 52 on a Jacksonville game. I know they're playing Kansas City, but still 52 is for Jacksonville seems a little high. But that'd be the way I'd go here. I'm really curious to see what this Cardinal offense looks like, though.
And Crow, what would be the reasoning here? The odds makers would have this total at 46.5. I mean, a lot of times, and I agree with you. I like the over in this. I think a lot of reasons point towards that. But the NFL betting markets, especially totals, more than I do. Why isn't this in the low 50s?
The only thing would just be personnel. I mean, because and it's still odd to me that it is so low. I would expect it to be to go up, because the way the totals market is these days, whether it's in basketball or football, it's all about the number of possessions, and it's not necessarily the just how good the offenses are, good the defensive are. I mean, possessions is the number one driving factor in totals, and you'd expect that to be, especially with Arizona. You'd expect a high possession game and a quick pace, and one of the problems with this offense in the NFL in the past is you leave your defense on the field too much, and therefore your defense struggles. So if your defense is not very good anyway, which I don't think Arizona's is, that just leads to more points. So, of all the totals on the board, I thought this one had the most value.
All right, good stuff, Brent. Starting it off here, we got 4:05 Eastern kickoff up next. Cincinnati at Seattle. Seeing 44 the total in this one with the Seahawks, one of the highest favorites on the board. Might be the highest, actually. Philadelphia is at 10. Seattle is -9 here, 44 the total. Cincinnati, Seattle, Crow.
Yeah, Seattle, I think you're paying the Seahawks tax, and just the fact that the Bengals were so poor in the second half of the season last year. Everybody is down on Cincinnati, but I think Cincinnati would be the way I'd play this one. I mean, Seattle a few years ago, obviously they were a juggernaut, but you look at the talent that has left this roster over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, Russell Wilson's great, no question. I mean, they added Clowney this week for the defense, but I think the secondary has some issues. Just the overall roster depth with Seattle has diminished over the last couple of 3 years. Then you look at their offense. Tyler Lockett is their best receiver, and he's really not your typical number one receiver. He's more of a slot guy. And then they're basically just kind of breaking in some new ones as far as the other receivers go. The tight end situation, nothing special there. The running backs, I think Chris Carson and Rashad Penny are both going to be good, but I'm just not sold on Seattle as being an A-level team, and I'm not sure that Cincinnati – I know that they had some injuries last year, and like I said, they had a miserable finish to the season. But just getting rid of Marvin Lewis, bringing in Zach Taylor, some new blood in the coaching staff should help them a little bit. So I'm not quite as down on Cincinnati as most people are.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this line is a little too high. I haven't bet it yet, but if you made me bet it right now, I would be on Cincy. We got Indianapolis at the Chargers up next. -6.5 here, LA Chargers. Not the San Diego Chargers, Brent. The LA Chargers, -6.5 at home. 44.5 the total.
They'll always be the San Diego Chargers.
I agree with you, man. Every time I see the word Chargers, I think San Diego. I don't think it's ever going to kind of come to my mind, the LA Chargers. I really don't, man.
I don't either. And, the Colts, obviously the biggest story. Andrew Luck's out. Jacoby Brissett is in. There's some different schools of thought on that. I mean, Andrew Luck was phenomenal. There's no doubt about it. 2 years ago when Brissett played, he was, 4-11 as a starter or something. Didn't really perform that well. However, totally different roster now for Brissett as compared to the one he was quarterbacking 2 years ago. I think the Colts' overall roster is pretty solid, one of the top 10 in the league, and I'm not sure that there's going to be a drop-off. I mean, Andrew Luck was phenomenal, but I'm not sure it's going to be like you see in some NFL situations where you go from the backup from the starter to the backup, where the backup has no shot. I think Brissett has a shot. Are they going to win 11 or 12 games with him? I don't think so, but 9 or 10 wouldn't be out of the question. It's not like they're going to fall off to a 5-11 team on account of the quarterback. I think, like I said, the roster in general is in good shape. The Chargers, with Andrew Luck, this was like a 3.5-point number. It's up to 6.5 now. The Chargers have their own injury. It's not as headline grabbing, but the loss of James to the defense, Derwin James, I mean, that's a big loss. And this team still has plenty of talent defensively, but Phillip Rivers, he's getting old in the tooth, but he continues to produce. You also have no Melvin Gordon here, so you have two big losses for the Chargers, and they're kind of being overlooked as compared to the Andrew Luck situation. But I would lean to taking the points here with the Colts. Like I said, I'm not sure that it's going to be that much of a drop off, and in a one-game scenario, especially. I mean, 6.5 is a lot of points to give a solid team in the NFL. And I'd rather have the Colts and the points here.
All right, Brent. We're talking with Brent Crow, mainstay at sportsmemo.com. He's been with the site for what, Brent? Upwards of 15 years, correct?
That's right.
Oh, man.
Almost 20.
Good stuff. Coming to us from the state of Alabama. Knows his NFL, knows his college basketball really as good as anybody out there. And, guys, we have a special coupon code for this segment of the podcast. If you put in CROW, 495. That's Crow, CROW 495. It will take $300 off Brent Crow's full NFL season package. That coupon code is Crow 495 at checkout. Got a couple games left here on the Sunday slate. New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. Division matchup starting off here, Brent. 45.5 the total, seeing -7. There are some 7.5s out there, so good one to be shopping around here. That's the Cowboys laying in Jerry's world.
Yeah, of course, the big story here is Ezekiel Elliott signed, probably going to play. Will he be effective? I think probably so. Maybe he doesn't get 29 touches like he normally would. It may be 19. And I'm very disappointed that he signed, because I drafted Tony Pollard late in a couple of fantasy leagues and thought I had a steal, but he's obviously not going to see much time with Elliott back in the lineup. The Giants, they have, I don't know, they're basically traded a lot of talent away on their defense. I mean, there's been some questionable personnel moves with the Giants. Looks like they did get it right with Daniel Jones based on preseason. I think he is one of the most, I think he was the most impressive rookie quarterback in preseason, but how long is he going to sit on the bench? Eli's going to play. Saquon Barkley, obviously right there with Elliott, top 2 running backs in the league. So there is some talent with the Giants offense. But, I think just from watching preseason and looking at some of the moves that have been made, I think Dallas has really improved themselves this year. To me, if Dallas doesn't get to the Super Bowl this year, they're not going to in the next several years. I think everything kind of lines up for Dallas to be really, really good this year. And, if they can avoid injuries, doesn't have any calamity, I think they're going to be right there with the Eagles in this division. The Giants look like about a 6-win team. I really don't like laying points in division games, rivalry situation like this, but I think if I had to play it, I'd probably take the Cowboys here.
We got 477, 478 up next. The Sunday Nighter, Pittsburgh Steelers at the New England Patriots. Pats -5.5 in Gillette, 49.5 the total, Brent.
And both teams, again, the stories just is so similar, where you've got teams losing star players. Antonio Brown gone from Pittsburgh. Of course, that's probably a good thing after what happened today. I mean, dude's obviously a nutcase. And then Gronkowski retiring for New England. So what's it mean? I think we saw that the Steelers can function pretty well without Brown or Bell. They scored a lot of points last year. Still have some impressive weapons, Smith-Schuster, and then I think Washington is going to be an excellent receiver for the Steelers. The Patriots, they're not going to try to replace Gronkowski. It's just going to look different. They're going to play 4 wides more. I mean, he was a special player at tight end, and you don't try to get somebody to replace him. I think and especially New England, they, more than any team in the league, kind of scheme against what you have, and they scheme for what they have, and they adapt, and it doesn't look the same every year, but they continually produce and score points. I do think, though, that it may take a while for New England to mesh, and so if you're going to, if you remember last year, New England lost at Detroit very early in the season, didn't look good, and after about 4 weeks, I thought, man, New England sucks. And then all of a sudden, they turned it on, and you saw what happened. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case this year, where they take a little time to adjust. No Chris Hogan, no Gronkowski, lost their center, lost another offensive lineman, but again, they always seem to make the adjustments necessary. They just do what they need to do based on what they have, and I think in the end it'll come out. They'll be obviously atop the AFC East, but in this one, I'd lean to taking the points with Pittsburgh here. I think it'll be a fairly high-scoring game, and 5.5 or 6 points with the Steelers looks like a better bet to me.
And Brent, we got 2 Monday Nighters coming up next. I do want to kind of get your insight on how you watch the games, like both on Saturday and Sunday out there for the listeners. Are you a guy that's kind of in your living room watching multiple screens here on the computer? How are you kind of ingesting all this information to bet, in weeks to come?
I usually have at least 2, if not 3 screens. And I'm not. A lot of times I watch with no sound on any of them. Just trying to get a feel for mostly looking at the line of scrimmage, and then in teams where they have like in college football with new quarterbacks, trying to really see what the offense looks like with a new quarterback. And as far as the NFL goes, it's a little easier for me in the NFL. I can flip channels and use a little NFL Red Zone and kind of keep up with every game that's going on at one time. I don't think you could watch 6 games on 6 screens, but I never watch a commercial. I promise you that.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the one thing technology has helped out for sure in the last decade or so. But we got 2 Monday Nighters up next. Houston at New Orleans, 52.5 the total. -6.5 the Saints laying in the Big Easy, Brent. What are you thinking here with the first of 2 Monday Nighters?
I think this will be an excellent game. I really like what Houston has done. Obviously, they're kind of going all in this year, kind of mortgage their future with the last trade for Laramie Tunsil, and I think that's going to help. I mean, left tackle was a place that they had struggled over the last couple of years, and you've got to protect the quarterback in this league. They got one of the better left tackles in the league now, and they have plenty of weapons on offense. Deshaun Watson is a pretty dynamic quarterback. The defense has got playmakers. Even without Clowney, they still have a very solid defense. So I think the Texans are going to be a solid club. Obviously, New Orleans didn't really change much from last year. They lose Mark Ingram and signed Latavius Murray, but Breeze obviously is still there along with Michael Thomas and the rest of those guys. So the one thing though, New Orleans has been kind of slow out of the gate the last few years under Sean Payton. They're kind of like New England last year. I remember week 1, New Orleans gave up, 48 points to Tampa Bay in the opener, lost the game, and struggled early in the season before they really put it together. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case here. And I'd rather, again, just like the Pittsburgh game, you get a really, really solid club getting almost a touchdown, even though it's on the road. But I think that's the way to go.
All right, Brent, and heck, Monday night, September 9th. It's one of my favorite nights to watch football. Just 2 games in the NFL. We got Houston, New Orleans, and on the back half, Denver at Oakland. Kind of a kickoff of sorts of Monday night football in the NFL. So we got Denver at Oakland up next to round out the podcast for the whole week. This is the last segment of the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast. He is Brent Crow. Check him out at Sportsmemo.com. You can get his full NFL season package for just $495. That's $300 off using the coupon code CROW495. That's CROW 495 at checkout. Brent, we got Denver, the Broncos at the Oakland Raiders, soon to be the Las Vegas Raiders. By the way, I just drove by the stadium yesterday, man. That stadium in Las Vegas here is really coming along. It's almost like they could get it going for this year if they really wanted to. But -2 here, Denver Broncos seeing -2, -2.5, 42.5 the total, Brent.
Yeah, like I said, the saga with Antonio Brown has affected the number here. Oakland actually opened with a 3-point favorite, and then it said it picked for a while, and now Denver 2.5, and who knows what's going on with Antonio Brown with his head. I mean, I don't know that he really wanted to play this year or what, but I think the Raiders definitely need him. I mean, that was the biggest problem for Oakland last year. They just had no talent at the receiver position. Thought they had it shored up with the signing of Terrell Williams and Antonio Brown this year, but man, I don't. It's hard to imagine what that does to a team when your so-called star is, almost fighting with the GM, and I don't know what kind of effect it'll have on his teammates, but it can't be a positive one. I will say that. I'm not sold on Denver. I think with Denver, you've got Flacco trying to reestablish himself as an NFL quarterback, and Flacco's never been a superstar. He's been a solid guy, though. I mean, he's never been a bottom 5 quarterback. He's always been middle of the road, which is better than Denver's had over the last several years. So the problem with Denver, they just have no depth whatsoever. If you see the Broncos later in the year with a bunch of injuries, it's going to be a big problem. But, like I said, with what's going on in Oakland right now and all the stuff with Brown, I'm assuming he's definitely not going to play this week. It's definitely a headache for the coaching staff and the players. And I don't think I will play the game, Drew, but I will be watching. I want to see what happens, see what the Raiders look like without Antonio Brown, and I'm afraid it's going to be kind of like last year.
And like overall betting the Raiders here, Brent, are you looking to get involved with their season win total at all? Are they kind of fade city for you, or you actually think they might be underrated in the betting markets?
Well, I think their schedule is so bad. I mean, they have such a tough schedule to start with. There's no way. I think they will definitely be improved. I mean, again, when you were looking a couple of weeks ago, you looked at Antonio Brown. They drafted Josh Jacobs, who I think is going to be a great running back from Alabama. They looked like, okay, well, they've got the wheels on the track. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be a lot more competitive this year. But now without Antonio Brown, and who knows, how long that's going to last. I've been reading reports where they may try to release him and get recoup their signing bonus to void his contract. I mean, that's a big loss. I mean, again, they were counting on him, and you know how good he is when he comes to play. I mean, he's one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in the league. So you take him away from this Raiders team, and all of a sudden you're kind of looking again like you did last year, where the receiving corps was 4 guys that you never heard of, and they were none of them number 1 or number 2 guys in the league. And you have to, in the NFL, the way the NFL is now, you have to have some playmakers. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You've got to have playmakers, and you take Brown out of this Raiders lineup, and it really hurts them significantly.
Good stuff, Brent. As always, we'll have Brent on next week, either on the college football or NFL Every Game on the Board podcast. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Have a fun, safe weekend. Best of luck with your bets. We'll talk on Monday. Teddy covers NFL opening line report. Have a great weekend, guys.